Welcome back, artists. Today we're going to start a project for Mother's Day. So when is Mother's Day? Mother's Day is going to happen on May 9th. So we have a couple of weeks to get this art project finished so that you can give it to a mother or an auntie or somebody that is special in your life. And we are going to do a drawing of a very classic flower given in bouquets for Mother's Day. And that flower is special to me because it's a lily, and that's my name. So we are going to learn how to draw a Mother's Day stargazer lily. And a stargazer lily, there's so many different kinds of lilies. The stargazer lily has beautiful speckles and colors, and it's pretty mesmerizing when you look at it because of how beautiful the colors blend together, the spectrum of colors you see. So we're going to spend a lot of time coloring next week in the same way to reflect those details of color in the stargazer lily. Today, all you're going to need is a pencil, an eraser, a Sharpie, and a piece of masterpiece paper. We are going to do the sketch and then Sharpie it up so you are ready to color it next week. Gather those supplies and I will meet you back here when it's time to draw. Okay, artists, here we go. We are going to put our paper in the portrait direction, so the tall way, and then we are going to begin drawing our lily by creating a very light circle. The reason we're going to draw this very light circle is because I want you to have kind of like this target of where the lily flower is going to be placed on the paper. So our lily is going to fit in the circle. So if you make your circle too little, then your lily is going to be too little. So this is going to be the edges of our flower. You'll see that my circle is not perfect, not in the slightest. And this circle is going to get erased at the end of our lily drawing. So please don't make the circle very dark, because then you will see the outline of it when you try to erase it. So you can go ahead and put a little circle inside your circle, a little dot at the center of your circle, and that's going to be where we begin drawing our petals from. They're all going to come from this circle. So a lily flower, there's so many different kinds of lilies, but a lily typically has 3 bigger petals up in the front and then the rest of the petals behind those 3 bigger petals. So we're going to start by drawing the 3 petals in the front first, and we're going to start at the center dot. And we're going to draw, remember, yours are not going to be the same as mine. So I'm going to go slow and just try to follow along, but you're going to create your own version of a lily. So the petal starts off small at the center, and then it gets wider, and then it comes to a point out on the edge of my circle. And then the same shape coming down, wider, and then back in to the point. And we're going to do that 2 more times, moving out to the sides of our circle. So one petal going straight up and down. The next one, same idea. Small in by our point, and then moving out fatter, and then to a point at the edge of our circle, and then coming back in, out, and getting skinny again at the point. One more time on the other side. Skinny, out, to the point of my circle, the out edge of my circle, and the same thing out and around. So it almost is starting to look like a propeller. And you'll see that I can make some adjustments to how that looks, sketching very lightly so that when I erase my first marks, they can easily come off. Okay? So those are the first 3 bigger petals in the front. Now we're going to draw 3 more petals in the back. And I'm still kind of playing with this one. Sometimes the shape comes off a little funny, and you can just go nice and slow. If you need to pause the video, you can always pause the video, come back to it. And remember, they're not going to all be exactly the same because they're moving in 3 directions, and it's hard to draw identical on all 3 directions, okay? So from here, we draw the 3 in the back. And these are not gonna start at the center point because we wanna make it look like they're growing from behind the 3 petals in the front. So we're gonna start behind, and the same idea, moving out to the edge of our circle, coming to a little point, and then moving out and back in. Same idea over here, number 2 behind. We want to have the same kind of idea where it goes up and to the outer circle, and then can come back in, out, and back around. Notice, again, I'm not going to the point, I'm going to the edges of my front petals. See the difference? The front 3 go to the point in the center, and now this third one, the same idea as the back 2, out to the edge of my circle, and then out and back in. And that's it. We're gonna keep it really simple from here. So we're just going to pause and make sure all of the tips of our petals reach our outer circle. And if they don't, you can always erase and try to draw them out because you do want the flower to look symmetrical. And remember, we talked about symmetry when we did our self-portrait video a long time ago at the beginning of the quarter. So there's the basic shape of our lily flower. Now from here, we're gonna draw the inside structure where the pollen sits. And maybe you've been studying about flower in your science subject classes at school. I'm not gonna go into all the details of the structures of a flower, but there's these little pollen sites that sit at the center of your flower, and we're gonna draw those here. So in front of each petal, you're gonna do this kind of rounded rectangle. So here's what I mean by that. A little rounded rectangle looks like that. And I'm gonna do one on each petal. A little rounded rectangle. You're gonna see where I'm going with this in a second. So a rectangle is an elongated square. So there's 4 sides. 2 of the sides are longer. 2 of the sides are shorter. And then you're gonna round the edges so it doesn't look like a sharp rectangle. And this one I kind of drew down a little bit far. I'm not gonna worry about it being in this perfect circle in the center because we know flowers do not necessarily grow asymmetrically in all places. And if the wind is blowing, maybe one is moving to the side. So just put it where it is. Don't try to erase too much. Don't get super perfectionist on this because you can always find something you're gonna want to erase if you look too closely to the details. And then from here, I'm gonna connect these pollen sites in to the center of my flower. So the same idea of just dragging these elongated rectangles back in to the center. So see how I've done that? It's like giving them something to hold on to and be attached to my flower. Okay? So take a minute there, make sure that you have them all connected. And then right here in the center, you can kind of, where we put that initial dot at the center of our circle, you can go ahead and make that a little bit darker. And if you want, you can erase the inside of it. So it's just a center point that we're gonna be able to color in later, next week, in the next video. Okay? So these should be nice and sturdy looking, holding on to those little pollen sites. Our petals are touching the outside of our circle. And at this point, we can go ahead and erase this circle. We actually don't need this here anymore for placement because we're done drawing those petals. And let's get rid of it because I want to draw a couple buds growing back behind the lily because sometimes those buds look really nice growing behind the lily. And when you get a bouquet for your mom for Mother's Day with lily flowers in it, you'll often find the big, beautiful blossoms of the lily and then the little buds that are just about to bloom once you put it in the water. So we're gonna draw 2 buds moving out behind this flower. And we're gonna do the same idea of these elongated stems growing up behind it. So let's put one here and let's put one here, but let's make this one a little bit taller so it's not exactly the same on both sides. And then we're gonna do the same thing where we just draw almost like a petal, but it's just a little bud, a flower that hasn't yet bloomed yet. And the same idea, round it on the bottom getting taller and skinnier at the top, and then round again towards the bottom. And on this one, let's give it a little leaf, just so it's different than the one on this side. And this little leaf, we can come out here, drop it down, and then bring it back in towards the flower. Just a couple different shapes we're working with. If you want to add nice details to your lily, it's always good to put different things on different sides so everything isn't always the same. And then from here, let's go ahead and attach our lily to a stem as if it was going to be going down into a vase. So let's give it a little stem. Your stem might look different than mine. Yours might be straight up and down. I'm having mine kind of curve up into the side again. I like things that aren't perfect. I don't want my flower to look like, I don't know, a perfect one out of a book or something like that. I like it to have some unique qualities. And then here, let's also go ahead and draw a little leaf growing off this one. Or maybe, you know what, let's do this, another little bud. A little bud here. And then with that bud, we can draw a couple leaves coming right off of it. So it looks like there's a little bit more happening down at the bottom of our lily. And then that's it. I'm gonna leave it like that, as if it's growing out of something. I'm not gonna finish it here. I kind of like when it's just sitting on the page. If you would like to draw a vase, go ahead. If you would like to draw any kind of bottom here, I'm gonna leave that artistic decision up to you. And you can go ahead and finish where the lily is placed. So again, in a vase, or maybe it's growing in a little bush of lilies. However you want to do that, that's your choice. I'm looking at this and I feel like I'd like to have one more little leaf coming down here. If you don't want to put that in, you don't have to. I just saw that this was on this side and this was on this side, so I wanted a little bit more balance here. If you would like to, you can add more leaves, more buds, whatever you want at this point. The lily is up to you. I'm gonna leave it like this. And next week when we start coloring, we are only going to use colored pencils because we are going to really get some nice color blending going on. Before we do that, we're gonna Sharpie it. So I'm going to pause on this and go to fast mode on the Sharpie, erase out all the pencil so that you have this for next week all ready to go with coloring.